For the first time ever, India will sell 50-year bonds. The new bond adds to the 30-year and 40-year tenor debts that are currently sold, extending the nation's yield curve, according to a borrowing plan released by the Reserve Bank of India this week. What are bonds? For the unversed, a bond is a debt instrument in which an investor loans money to an entity, typically corporate or government, which borrows the funds for a defined period of time at a variable or fixed interest rate. Bonds are used by companies, municipalities, states and sovereign governments to raise money to finance a variety of projects and activities. Owners of bonds are debt holders or creditors of the issuer. As per the RBI, a government security, GSEC, is a tradable instrument issued by the central government or the state governments. It acknowledges the government's debt obligation. Such securities are short-term, usually called treasury bills, with original maturities of less than 1 year, or long-term, usually called government bonds or dated securities with original maturity of 1 year or more. In India, the central government issues both treasury bills and bonds or dated securities, while the state governments issue only bonds or dated securities, which are called the State Development Loans, SDLs. GSECs carry practically no risk of default and, hence, are called risk-free gilt-edged instruments. Why are 50-year bonds being sold for the first time? For the first time, India is introducing the ultra-long maturity debt, 50-year bonds, to cater to the growing demand from insurance and pension funds. The nation's burgeoning life insurance and pension fund industries, driven by an expanding middle class, are changing the landscape for India's $1 trillion sovereign debt market. The sale reflects their growing heft and helps Prime Minister Narendra Modi's government reduce its reliance on purchases by banks to fund record borrowings. Investor demand has been strong, supported by the expansion of the formal sector, with households allocating a higher share of financial savings in life insurance, pensions and provident funds, Govt, economist at IDFC First Bank mentioned, as per Bloomberg report. The 50-year bond will be well bid as there may be good demand from insurance companies, Murthy Nagarajan, head of fixed income at Tata Asset Management, said. Bond yields may only drop a couple points tomorrow because these numbers are on expected lines, said Nagarajan. The authorities are trying to increase the tenure of debt sold and expect yields to decline after India's inclusion in JP Morgan Chase & Co.'s Emerging Market Index, a government official, who didn't want to be named, said. How many 50-year bonds are being sold? The government will sell 300 billion rupees, $3.6 billion, of the 50-year bond in the October to February period, which accounts for almost 5% of its total borrowings. The growing footprint of life insurers, which now own a quarter of government debt, has already impacted the nation's yield curve. Earlier in the year, longer-dated debt was priced at lower yields than shorter maturity paper, the report mentioned. The yield on the 30-year bond has fallen 11 basis points this year to 7.34%, outpacing the 7 basis point drop in the 5-year note. Also read, all you need to know about India's bond market to be included in JP Morgan Index. What is government's plan for October to March? India's central government plans to borrow 6.55 trillion rupees, $78.72 billion, via bonds from the market during the October to March period, the Reserve Bank of India said in a statement on Tuesday. In response to market demand for ultra-long duration securities, the RBI has decided to introduce a new dated security of 50-year tenor, the central bank said. The borrowing plan for the second half of the fiscal year will include issuance of government green bonds worth 20,000 crore rupees. As per ET report, India has projected gross market borrowing at 15.43 trillion rupees for the current fiscal year ending 31st March 2024, of which it has borrowed 8.88 trillion rupees between April and September.